My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast, the podcast that shows spiritual entrepreneurs how to clarify their message and then how to turn that clarity into revenue. I'm your host, Prima Jope, a mentor and message expert since 2020. Whether you seek to simply clarify your message or feel ready to monetize your brilliance, this is your safe space for actionable guidance and practical tools on how to turn your woo into predictable revenue. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome back. I'm excited to have Daimon today. And Daimon has spent most of his life understanding the brain and how it works, understanding how to get feelings of contraction and turn them into feelings of expansion, understanding how to reduce pain and suffering in this world. When I first met Daimon, what I picked up is that he is very interested in depth, but at the same time in speed. And so we need to be able to take you from suffering to happiness in the shortest amount of time that we can. And at the same time, he's very interested in uprooting the roots of whatever the cause is so that you don't have to go back there. I have seen modalities, but I've seen things that spent weeks and weeks and weeks, and people got an inch progress or nothing. And then I have seen what he does, and I'm excited to dive in because it feels deep enough, and it feels efficient, and it gives speed. And if there is anything that suffering gets from us, it's no chance. We want to get rid of suffering now. I don't know that anybody going through pain wants to go through it for another 1 hour. And so I find Daimon's methodology backed by neuroscience, and a lot of his time and life in the hard knocks, his sweat, his fears, his frustrations, we're really learning from his sweat and everything he's put together for the entire life he's been on this planet. And so I don't want to say much about Daimon because you're going to experience him. My aha moments got by just talking to him and listening to him and experiencing him. He's the one that taught me that the world is simple. There's feelings of contraction and there's feelings of expansion. When you feel these feelings of contraction, you don't want them. When you feel expansion, you want that. And my job is to take people from feelings of contraction to feelings of expansion. And in that moment, I was like, isn't this what everybody is trying to say by using a lot of words? And so Daimon taught me that. And I was like, this was cool. And I've never stopped using it in my vocabulary and the people that I bring on. Every guest comes with something and I'm like, yeah, but really what you're saying is contraction and expansion. They're like, oh my God, how did you get that? And I'm like, Daimon. So Daimon, welcome to the show. I don't know how many times I have used your analogy of contraction and expansion. I'm really honored that you're on the show today. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Where did I leave out as I was, rambling around your work, going south, going north? What is it that I could have said to make it simpler for the listener to know what you do?
Well, one thing would be that it's not really different, but it's just going a little deeper on what you said, is that one of my main precepts or ideas that I come from is that it's all neural networks. And that's an oversimplification, right? What color your hair is not a neural network, but most of what makes you who you are is neural networks. Neural networks are, you have 86 billion neurons in your brain, and each one has something like 10,000 connections to other neurons. And they connect up into networks, and those networks somehow embody everything you've ever learned, all your fears, all your assumptions and beliefs, all your attitudes about yourself, your patterns of relationship, how you relate to everything in your life, money, other people, yourself, your life in general, how you make choices, your preferences, and so on. So anything that is a problem in a person's behavior or how they feel and so on can be traced back to their neural networks. And so I work with a piece of neuroscience called memory reconsolidation, which is the discovery of the 5 steps by which the brain changes its neural networks. And so I have built those 5 steps, which are very logical. I'll tell you about them when we get there. I built those into methods that are usually quite easy to use. And so this is a way that people can take charge of their own brains, take charge of their neural networks, and move, as you say, from contraction to expansion.
Amazing. And I don't know why your sound seems in and out. Are you connected to a microphone?
Check.
The sound seems in and out, but it's not too bad. I think we can do with it. But I do notice that it's
This is probably better.
Yes. Yes,
okay.
Thank you. So Daimon, I would love to kind of understand what is the problem when people come to you? Like, what are people complaining about? What are these feelings of contraction that people present to you when they come in your world? And what are the feelings of expansion that people are looking for? Because the last time we talked about it, I got like an aha moment. Up to this point, I can't believe how clear that is for anyone, for myself. So would you love to give them that in your own like fast language? Because I don't want to say it because I feel like I have already diluted it in many ways.
Yeah. Well, as you said, one of the keys in learning to use neuromastery, which is the name of my whole approach, is learning to notice contraction in yourself. And it could take many, many forms. It could be anger, it could be upset, it could be fear. It could be anywhere that you pull back. It can be limits that you put on yourself, like, I couldn't do that. Or I can only make so much money, or I couldn't, things that you feel that you can't communicate, you're too afraid to communicate them, or sharing yourself, being authentic. So it takes many forms. So learning to notice contraction is one of the first things, because most people, everybody thinks they're normal, right? This is my normal state, but they can actually be in a high state of stress, and that's normal for them. So how do you notice contraction? Well, you can notice the places. Any physical tension is the most obvious. If you're feeling physically tense, or you feel shut down. Well, let me just name the things. Okay, so just everybody who's listening, please pay attention to your body. I'm going to name a number of things here. So, and notice what happens in your body. So, grief, pain, unhappiness, rejection, fear, failure. So how do you feel as I say those words and you tune into them? So I imagine there's a sense of contraction. And that's how I first came to understand this, and by going through, what worked and what doesn't, what I could work with. And then on the other hand, notice in your body how you feel when I say things like happiness, love, appreciation, beauty, joy, curiosity, fun, connection, peace, relaxation. So that's probably a feeling of expansion. So my work is about moving from contraction to expansion. So from those states of fear and pain and limitation and shutdown to expansion. And so all those contracted states are learned. No infant is born with those. Infants are born in a healthy infant, in a good situation, is born in states of expansion, joy, happiness. They go through temporary needs, right? But if their needs are met, they return to being happy. And but we can get stuck in those contracted states, either through habit, which is what we're exposed to. If everybody's always angry in our family, then we're going to learn to be an angry person, or we're going to shut down because of that anger,
Mm,
and that will just become normal. That's what I call a setting,
mm,
and then it becomes hard to see that's just how things are, and or by trauma. People also shut down in trauma, and then that becomes an ongoing state. So people come to me with all kinds of conditions. It could be that they're going through a difficult situation like a divorce,
mm,
or um, they're having trouble making a decision. They're
mm,
in some situation, they have a problem they don't know how to deal with, or they're angry,
mm.
just too much anger, um, or they just feel blocked in their lives. So all those things are things I can work with, or they just want more. We have this sense as human beings that we want to expand. We want to express ourselves more. We want more love. We want more accomplishment. We want more experience. We just
Mm.
want to grow, and that's just part of being human. It's a good thing that's built into us. But if you have that and you're trying to move forward and you're blocked, something's in your way, then that's a sign of contraction.
Mm.
Does
Help
that
me.
answer your question?
Mm. Carry on. I think I interrupted something. I would
No, I
love
just
for
said,
you to.
does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I am wondering, what do most people, most modalities, most experts get wrong? I find that your work is not taking years and years. The maximum I have seen you talk about is 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And you have said that people can see results in an hour, in 30 minutes, and I am just wondering, what is everybody else missing who is doing this work for years and years and years, and they're still caged by the same thing?
Yeah. Well, the difference in my work is that I'm directly using this neuroscience of memory reconsolidation.
Mm,
So directly changing the neural networks that are responsible for whatever it is that we're focused on. And so there's neuroplasticity, probably everyone's heard of that, which is that your brain can change how it's wired. Um, you know, and there are various ways of doing that. One way is through exposure and repetition, and that's a
mm,
slow way of doing it, and that's what a lot of methods rely on. Uh, a lot of methods also rely on logic, figuring things out, analysis, understanding, and that's useful, but it doesn't actually change the deep patterns.
mm,
So it's like if you've ever tried to do something like change how you tie your shoes.
mm.
I did that once just to see what it would be like. It's hard because those patterns are built in. That neural network is just so smooth, so automatic that
Mm,
to interrupt it takes a lot of attention, and then to build in a new one where that's the one that automatically happens, it takes a lot of attention and practice, and that's the approach that a lot of people use,
mm,
and it's just very slow. I say it's like working with the leaves and the branches of a tree rather than the trunk and the roots, which is what I do.
mm,
So when you go down to the roots of say, an early decision that I'm not good enough,
mm,
okay, how did that decision get made? Was that communicated to you by your parents or how you were treated, or was it just a decision that you made based on something that happened? So we can go back to that decision and remake it. And then that changes everything from then on.
would you love to take us back into where the place where you started? Would you love to go through a little bit of your story so that we can get some tissue to touch on
Mm.
and connect the relevance of when you hadn't figured out all of this through try and error? Is that a place you
Yeah,
would like to go?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I myself had a lot of trauma when I was young,
Mm,
and I shut down very, very hard. And I started coming out of it in my teens when I realized how depressed I was.
mm,
And I tried very hard to find, a reason to live, find a meaning to life. And there was a point at which I realized I'd failed. There was no meaning. And I was at the point of saying, well, then it's not worth living. And something happened. This voice told me no, and so I turned around from that path. And so I'm still alive. And but then I was still stuck, and I started trying to figure out, okay, well, why do I feel so bad, and what can I do about it? And I spent 40 years doing that. 40 years trying everything I could find and doing it for years or decades at a time, meditation and many other methods. And then after doing that, one day it came to me. It was this beautiful summer day. I remember the scene exactly. I was looking out the window and there were trees and the blue sky and there were islands out there. And I realized nothing had worked. It had failed. And um, so my quest of 40 years had failed, and I didn't know anything else I could do. I'd done everything quite well, and there was nothing that would work. And I realized that everything I'd done had failed because it was operating on the wrong level. I
mm,
needed something that went deeper. And so my mind just went blank. It's like I ran into a brick wall and my mind just stopped. Right? And in that silence, this question came up, which is, why is it hard to change? And
mm,
until then, I'd never asked that. I was always just trying to change. And I think that's what everyone does.
mm,
But with this question, I'd always been interested in evolutionary psychology, is trying to understand, we're basically hunter gatherers, with more stuff than we can carry, but we're still hunter gatherers in our brains and our bodies. And so I tried to understand how we are now based on what life was like then. So that question immediately turned into, why would it be an advantage to our hunter-gatherer ancestors to have change be hard? So I figured there had to be an advantage to it because it's so widespread. Change is hard for everybody across all cultures, across the world. Everybody resists change. So why is that? There must have been a real advantage to that. And so that started me off on this track that eventually led to neuromastery. Because what I decided, I'll just tell you the first piece of it. What came to me as I was asking that is that the advantage that hunter-gatherers have is culture, that they know how to do stuff.
mm,
Because if you just look at, a human being by themselves out on the Serengeti, they're slower than other things, than hyenas or big cats. We have soft skin. We're not that strong. We don't have fangs or claws. We can't fight them off. We don't have armor, and so on. So we're pretty much lunch meat, right? Except that didn't happen. We became the dominant species on the planet. So how did that happen? It's because we learned stuff and then we
mm,
passed it on from generation to generation, and it accumulated.
mm,
So I went into that process, and along with that, which was our huge survival advantage, it taught us how to make tools and weapons and use fire and language and so on. And
mm,
uh, but then, so that was all fantastic. Okay. Uh, but then we invented civilization, and there was a lot of trauma, and that gets passed along and accumulates as well. So now there's been 10,000 years of trauma from civilization, which, has nice things. We can talk like this, across continents, but it also brings all that trauma. And so that's a global inheritance that we all have. I say there's been this tsunami of trauma coming down through 10,000 years. And we live now in a globally traumatized and traumatizing society through media and politics and war and mass communications and even entertainment and education and the economic system. Fear is built into all of that. And traumatized people pass that on to their children. With the best of intentions, they still do it. So that's what we're dealing with. And change is hard because that heritage for hunter-gatherers was essential, right? It had to be passed on, and it couldn't get frittered away. You couldn't just forget how to make fire, right? That would be disastrous. So we have a part that I call the status quo maintenance program that resists change. It literally is there to resist change. It's SQMP, I call it SQIMP. And if when you try to change yourself, say you decide to go to the gym, it's an easy example, and you haven't been going to the gym, you're out of shape. How many times are you going to go? You're going to go like a few times, and then the excuses start, right? And it's like, oh, I'm too tired, or oh, I'm embarrassed, or oh, those guys,
body gets sore. Sometimes it's like a physical body getting sore, and you're like, no, I can't do this again.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that, or oh, I just ate a big meal, I can't go, So it's what we usually call self-sabotage or resistance. So how many ways can how many ways have you committed self-sabotage, so to speak? So I say that's not self-sabotage. It's not resistance. It's your status quo maintenance program working perfectly to keep you in your familiar state of being. So that's something we just have to work with. But once you understand that it's not your ego, it's not some imp that's trying to, be in your way and obstruct you. It's just a program. It's entirely neutral. It'll help you maintain positive habits as well as keep you stuck. And it's trainable. So one thing neuromastery does is take down the resistance to change. We work with the squint rather than just being frustrated by it. So why is it hard? So I started realizing that. You asked me about my personal journey. So I started having these insights, and at the same time, through a marvelous chain of events, this book came my way that's about memory reconsolidation. And I saw that this method, the 5 steps of memory reconsolidation, fit perfectly with everything I'd learned, and that I knew how to, do the most crucial step, using meridian points. And I started being able to make changes in myself that I'd never been able to make. And so I just continued discovering those things. New things are still happening, and that's 20 years later. Still making discoveries about how to create change, and so that gave me hope. And I've just been pursuing it ever since. And then I realized that these same methods work for other people, and so it's been unfolding ever since.
How long has it been since you started this NLP journey and discovering all of the things?
Oh, it's been close to 30 years that I had that insight.
Wow. So 30 years you've been playing around with these whole things and kind of seeing what works, what doesn't work, what works faster, what doesn't, what is more effective, what doesn't. I would love to go through the process of how you do what you do. Say I come to you and I'm in shambles, my life just turned around, I'm divorced, it's day 1 or day 7, I'm crying my eyes out, and I just want either some relief or some happiness in my life, or I am suicidal in this moment, or I'm thinking, and I'm like, Daimon, can you create some joy in my life? Please, I am dying. What's that process?
It's pretty serious.
That's the real world. People get frustrated and they're like, I wish I could throw myself off the building. And most people will throw themselves off the building if they don't know that you exist. So if somebody was trying to think, I am going to do it, I am going to, I don't know, whatever they think they're trying to do, because they're sad, they're miserable, I am not worthy enough. I don't know, maybe this is a 3rd divorce. Who knows? Life is really like a teacher. Yeah. And they're like, why me? What did I do to deserve this suffering? And now somehow God said, okay, get to this podcast. Maybe you will be fine. What is the process of coming from there to like a place where they can see themselves again for what they are?
Right, right. Well, first I would listen to them first thing,
Mm.
and find out what's going on with them,
Mm.
and hopefully they'll feel safe. People do tend to feel safe talking with me,
Mm.
and then I would talk about how um, how they got into that state and what that state really is. So it's a little bit of instruction or education, that it's not them, it's a feeling that they have.
Mm.
And it's a state that's brought about by a certain neural network being activated, and that we can change neural networks. So that's
Mm.
like the big frame.
Mm.
And then I would take them into one of my methods. I have 20 some methods that I use, and that, which one would depend on what's going on with them,
Mm.
and how urgent it is, and so on. One of my methods I make available for free. It's one of my favorites, and that'll be linked in the show notes or in the comments down below.
Mm.
It's called the clarity process, and it's on paper, and it can be quite transformative. Um, and you get before and after results. With
Mm.
this particular method, it's the first thing I do when there's a relationship problem. So if you have a difficult relationship with anybody, that's a good thing to do. It's also great for just taking down stress out of your life. Or
Mm.
if you have a business, you can get fresh new insight on your business. So anyway, that's freely available to you in that
Mm.
from that link. Um, but I can also show you a very simple thing that I might do with someone who comes, and
Yeah.
people can just follow along with that if they want to. Would
Yes,
you
I
like?
would I would love us to go through something where you kind of help us go from here to here. And I would love to come along, whoever is listening is coming along. And I would love for you to move from like a feeling of contraction to a feeling of expansion, if you can.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So So the way it usually works is that if there's a feeling of contraction, I think of that as there's a neural network that has a charge on it,
Mm.
right? So neurons are electrical beings, right? And
Mm.
they live by electrical charge going through them, and that's what maintains the neural network. And so what we do is neutralize that charge. So we take down that charge, and then the neural network maintaining the anger or whatever it is, the belief that I'm not good enough, whatever it could be. Um, when that charge is no longer there, that neural network falls apart, and those neurons go off and find a better job, right? Because they're not doing that anymore.
Mm.
And the brain is very good about reassigning resources. And then, so that's what I call negativa, or taking down the negative. And then when you take that down, then that opens up space for your more deeper, more authentic way of being to be, so calmer, you become calm, your mind clears up. And then there's positiva, things like happiness and joy and so on, and those can be cultivated. And that's a different process. So I think of it sometimes as getting someone unburied. It's like you're buried under a building that's collapsed in an earthquake. So I call that the
Mm.
rubble civilization. And so we're lifting off those big pieces of concrete and so on. And underneath all that, you're there. You're safe, you're whole, and you didn't get crushed.
That's
Uh,
interesting. So we come to you with feeling like the building has fallen on us. Like the building has fallen. I am down there. I will
right,
die. So I
right.
need you to help me lift the building off of my head.
That's
Okay.
right.
So now
Yeah,
I'm under the building. I am suffocating and I'm calling you and I can't even talk because I'm choked. I'm like, no, save me. So what's the process
right.
of me coming out of
Okay.
that?
So here's the simplest thing that I
Yeah.
said people can follow along with. So,
Yeah.
so, um, but first I'm going to explain the 5 steps. Okay.
Mm.
So this is how we do it. We come into it, with some education. So the 5 steps of how you change a neural network are that you identify the neural network
Mm.
that you want to change. So if somebody comes in and they're just really upset, Okay, we'll
Mm.
just say that. They're really upset. It could be angry, it could be scared, it could be anything. So you identify it, and then you activate it, which all you have to do is think about it, and it's activated. And then you interrupt it. And that just, what you're interrupting is your brain's expectation of how things are going to go.
Mm.
And that's automatic because you've probably been through it many times by that time. It's just automatic. It's like tying your shoes. You know, I know how to get really upset. Um, and so, but you introduce something that interrupts your brain's expectations. And then that's very important because it opens your brain up to new learning. It
Mm.
changes state, actually, right then. And then you have a time when you can put in the new learning. And we put in the new learning using meridian points, acupuncture points. And we do that because there's research coming out of Harvard that shows that stimulating meridian points calms the amygdala, which is the alarm center of the brain. And other experiments have shown that it lowers cortisol, and cortisol is a master stress hormone. So by doing this in the right way, we're actually taking fight or flight or freeze out of the nervous system. We're actually bringing calm into the nervous system directly. And then the last stage is reconsolidation, which is like saving and closing a file that we've just edited, which is very much like what we're doing. So, okay, so now I can show you. So, so say you're just upset. We'll just use upset
Mm.
as the generic term. So it could be angry, it could be afraid, it could be nervous, it could be anything. So, but I'll just use the
Does
word
it
upset.
help if I bring an upset from the past for me to go
Yeah,
through
it
this
works on things from
experience?
the past. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah, it works on past, present, and future. You know, we
Okay.
can talk about things that are going on now, things that happened anytime in your life, or anything that's coming up that you're anticipating.
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing is to tune into how your body feels as you think of that thing, that memory or that situation. Tune into how your body feels and notice any contraction and where it is in your body. And this is called the felt sense. Where it is in your body and what it feels like. And the way it feels is a physical feeling. I don't mean words like anxiety or fear, but words like contraction or heavy or shut down or empty or hot or cold. So a physical word, if you can notice that. It's not essential, but it's helpful. Okay. Are you looking for that?
I'm following through. Hopefully, things will come up for me. I'm just following through. Don't use me as the example because I'm not
I
even
know,
idea of which feeling I'm trying to bring. So I just want
I
to
know.
follow in silence, and I'll let you know if something happens for me.
Okay, I know you've done a lot of work on yourself, and maybe you've cleared all that stuff out. So, um,
I still get
well,
angry. I still get triggered. So there is work left to do. So I need to pull out some stuff. But whoever is listening can just follow along, maybe. Someone may
yeah,
have something right now in their life, and so they can follow along and bring
yeah.
it.
Most people don't have any trouble thinking of something that bothers them.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you've done a lot of work, so that's good.
Mm,
So I'm going to show you some meridian points. Okay,
mm,
so they're at the base of the nail
mm,
on the sides.
mm-hmm,
Okay, and it's just at the base of the nail before that first joint, so the narrowest spot there. Okay,
mm,
so and it's on all 10 fingers, including the thumbs. So you can start with the thumb and just
mm,
do a little squeeze, 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 or you can rotate, or you can move the other hand. The idea is to put some mechanical energy in there because that actually stimulates an electrical current that goes right up to the brain by
mm,
doing that. Okay. And we just do that on all fingers. And I like to use the matching finger. So here I've got my middle finger to my middle finger. And here's my ring finger to my ring finger. And always the thumb, of course. And
mm,
then little finger to little finger. And then you just switch hands. And here's the thumb. And then first finger, middle finger to middle finger, ring finger to ring finger, ring finger to ring finger, and then you just switch again. And so if you practice this for a little bit, it just becomes automatic
mm,
and think about it. And once people learn this, they find that they're just doing this as they go around through their lives because it's calming. It's just is inherently calming and your body likes it. So
That's interesting because when I feel angry or triggered, I find myself writing or typing something. The the reaction or the instinct is go to your computer and write down what you're feeling or put it in a book. And usually after writing it down, I feel clearer and calmer. And I'm like, okay. So I
Yeah.
think it's the same thing I'm doing, but I don't know that I'm doing it.
Well, writing down is good because it connects your frontal cortex to your limbic system, to your emotional body.
Mm,
So it's bringing your frontal cortex, online and creating a container for those feelings. And so that's useful in itself. Um, this is a cool thing. Once you write it,
mm,
since you brought that up, read it while you're doing these finger points. Read
like
it over
really.
again. Read it over again while you're doing these finger points. And then if you write some more, you'll find that it's quite different.
Because I write, but I never read it. Like I just write
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So if I could
Okay.
read it, it probably would be more calming.
So I'm adding another stage here to read it while you're doing the meridian points, because then you'll be pulling the fight, flight, freeze reactivity out of your system.
mm,
Now you did that to some degree, but this will take it another layer.
I do it, but then I need to cut off the person and isolate myself and then do it. And then probably walk away and communicate to them what I've come up with. So my process is I'll write down and then I will say, what did I want to say that I can't say because I'm angry? What did I want to say that I'm scared if I say it may come out the wrong way? And so I'll just walk. And once I've walked in thoughts and talked to myself, I go, this is clearly what I want them to know. And so I will place the voice clip or whatever, and I will say, hey, I'm angry right now, but what I wanted to really say is this. And I feel like if I said it in the moment, I wouldn't say it right. And so I want you to know that this is what triggered me, and I would love for this to stop or reduce
Right,
or
right.
yes. So it's like a process, it's subconscious, like how I get my sanity back literally. But I didn't know that
Yeah,
it was, yeah. Oh,
right.
that's helpful. I'll try the
So,
fingers next time.
so that sounds good, but I think what I just suggested would shortcut all that, and you might find that you're not angry, that you have a new level of insight or compassion or connection, or that you've
Mm,
changed in some way. You've taken your emotional state and transformed it toward calm clarity.
mm,
So you can write a little bit. You could write a bit, a paragraph, and then read that, doing the finger points, and then write another paragraph and read that, and the
mm,
whole thing will change by the time you get to the end.
I think I've been thinking about what if I could write, read, and create a new story that helps me deal with it better. Because what I believe or what I think is that if I had done all of the work on myself, I wouldn't be triggered by another person, or I wouldn't be forced to respond to their feelings or whatever. And so the moment I find myself engaging in the heated conversation, I think, no, there is work to be done. Why are you
Hmm.
allowing this person to upset you? Why can't you do your thing and let them be? And I don't know
Right.
if I should try and achieve that or not, because I feel like, why am I participating in the argument? Like, why am I not able to go, I can understand that you're angry right now, but I'm not getting involved. Like, why don't I have the capacity
Right.
to say I am not getting involved in this heated argument? Why am I there? And then a minute later, I'm like, oh gosh, like, what is this? What am I doing? What
Yeah.
gets me to the argument is the part on my side, which I keep thinking, no, no, there's work here. Why are you even for 1 minute participating in that?
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I agree with you that there's something in
Mm,
you that's getting triggered and is reactive to
mm,
what they're doing.
yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you that there's that neutralizing that reactivity is really the
Mm,
basic thing that goes on with neuromastery. And then that
mm,
brings you to a level of calm and clarity. And then as you keep doing it, that can extend through your life. And so your whole life becomes more mentally and emotionally balanced. So
mm,
so so you mentioned the writing, so that's a technique, so that you can use that. But and uh, so anybody Anybody listening to this can do that. But here's an even faster way. So if you say, I'm upset, okay, you could say, I'm upset, I'm not upset. Even if you don't believe it, it
I'm
doesn't matter.
upset.
I'm upset, I'm
Uh-huh.
not upset.
I'm not
I'm
upset.
upset, I'm
I'm
not
not
upset.
upset.
And tune into it, each time.
I'm
I'm
upset.
upset.
I'm not
No, I'm not
upset.
upset. I am upset. No, I'm not upset. You can just come along and do this with me. You can
I'm not
say
upset.
it out loud to yourself. If you're
Mm-hmm.
listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm upset. I'm not upset. It doesn't matter which finger you're doing, just one after the other. I'm upset. I'm not upset. I'm upset. Not upset. I am upset. No, I'm not upset. I am really upset. No, I'm not upset. I'm so upset. No, I'm not upset. I am 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 upset. No, I'm not upset. So just check in on how you feel now, having done that.
I don't know if I was feeling upset, how it would be, but I would have to be upset to tell you how I
Yeah,
feel.
yeah, you weren't upset to start with, so
I
I'm
wasn't
not.
upset, but I can
Yeah.
imagine. So what? Help me understand what is that? I'm upset. I'm not upset. What are you doing to the brain when you say
Mm,
I'm upset? I'm not. Give me explain to me what is happening there.
yeah, right. So what's happening there is that if we've named it accurately enough, like maybe you need to use the word angry or scared or something like that. So it helps to name it anger accurately. I was just using upset as a generic word.
Mm.
Um, so what you're doing is you're tuning into that neural network, that feeling, that felt sense of being upset or angry. And then, so normally it's like it just rotates, it just circles. It just goes around there. I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry. But by saying I'm not upset, I'm not angry, you give your brain an off ramp, so to speak.
Interrupted.
So when you think of I'll use the word angry. When you think of I'm angry, then the thought I'm not angry is right there also. So it's an alternative. It's building out that neural network of I'm angry, and just repeating it to, well, it also includes I'm not angry. And so that's one thing. And then the other is that you're literally calming your nervous system by doing the meridian points. You're literally taking down the charge so that when people do this, after a while they're not angry, or if you use a scale of 0 to 10, it comes down, you know, and you can just keep bringing it down to 0. 0 is my favorite number. And when you get to 0, sometimes you have new insights, a whole new way of understanding things can show up. So so you're building alternatives to that neural network that can just repeat and repeat and repeat and get stronger and stronger. So you're building an alternative to that of I'm not angry, and you're taking down the charge, and then your state changes, how you are changes.
What if you don't believe it? What if you don't believe that you're not angry? What if you're actually angry? Like, oh, I'm so angry.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Just do it. It works.
So you just say I'm not angry, even though you feel angry.
Yeah, you say I'm not angry, even if yeah, you don't have to believe it. You're
You don't
just
have to
but
believe it.
yeah, you
Oh.
don't have to believe it. This is not based on belief at all. You know,
Mm.
the only time it doesn't work is if somebody is invested in it not working. Like
Mm.
if they discover that this works and they put a lifetime into some other technique that's slower and so on, and discovering that their whole lifetime was wasted, they're not going to. It's not going to work for
Mm.
them.
So then I have
Um,
a question. This, so you're even talking to someone and the anger starts to come, and you're like, okay, you get your fingers, you start doing the thing. How does this uproot the roots of the anger? What if they are actually activating a trauma from my
yeah,
life when I was a child or whatever? Like if this, I'm feeling angry because my inner child is being provoked.
Yeah.
How does this then uproot that and turn it into something else, or give it new meaning, or give it new existence? How does
Right. Right.
mm,
Great question. Really great question. It doesn't handle that. Okay.
mm,
All it does is take down the fire right now.
calm
So
down? Mm,
calms you down to the point where you're not, you know, killing yourself or somebody else. Right.
mm,
Um, so that's the first step, is putting out the fires. Okay. So that's one of the
mm,
stages of growth actually that I've identified. So there's stages. So the first stage is putting out fires, which is just the stuff that's up in your face, where you get triggered and you get upset, you get out of control, those sorts
mm,
of things. And so when you put down enough fires, then by that time, you've learned skills and you've gained confidence and so on. So mental and emotional balance becomes more prevalent in your life. And you may still get upset, but you can just get back on track.
So
So
this
that
is
I
a
call that,
regulation. This is self-regulation.
yeah, self-regulation. I call that equanimity, right? So there's putting out fires, and then there's equanimity, mental
Mm,
emotional balance, self-regulation with skills. It's not, it's because you know how to do something.
mm,
And then that turns into, if you keep doing it, a lot of people stop at that point. Hey, I'm good. I'm not getting upset. That's great. But if you keep doing it, then you move into authenticity. So where your deeper nature starts expressing itself and your higher capacity. So there's this quality of emergence, and this is, I am moving toward answering your question. Um, as you as you put down the fires, then deeper layers emerge that you can focus on, and
mm,
that goes, and we can do that more deliberately too. So if somebody has a childhood trauma, we take down the anger and they say, okay, well, can you remember a time when you felt that, in your past? You know,
mm,
and often people can. It acts sort of as a bridge to their past. And yeah, the time that my mother got so upset with me because of something my brother did, and it was unfair, and I've been
mm,
angry about that ever since. Just to make something up.
mm,
So we can go back to that original decision or experience, and we can undo that in various ways. I
mm,
even have a method I call time travel, where
mm,
you now, if you had a memory of a thing that happened, you now could go back and talk to that younger person, the younger
mm,
you, before it happened, and say, okay, look, this is going to happen. I'm you from the future, and I have something important to tell you. This is going to happen, but you don't have to be surprised now, because you already know what's going to happen,
mm,
and I'll be with you through the whole thing. And then maybe you can even change your response. Instead of saying this, just stay quiet, or do say this instead of being quiet, or leave the room, or whatever.
mm,
And then people go through that scenario, that memory, but different, because your older self is there, and it becomes much less traumatic. It could
mm,
even become not traumatic at all, um, because you're taking down the elements of trauma. So isolation is one of the elements of trauma. Um, Having something be dramatic is one of the elements. Having no recourse is one of the elements. And so all of those things are gone, because you already knew it was going to happen.
mm,
You have company, you're there, you have your older self there, and you have recourse, you have ideas about what's going to happen, and so you have resources. So it becomes not traumatic, it just becomes an experience. And I know it may sound bizarre, but I've done it with many people with car accidents and bullying incidents, and
mm,
it stops affecting them. I mean, the memory is still there. Yes, it happened, but it's like, so what?
mm. It's I was, and I know you said there's 20 some modalities. There's 20 some ways that you can apply NLP, and I think this is now
Well,
me.
not NLP, not
Oh,
NLP, neuromastery.
okay, neuromastery. So you say there's 20 some ways you can apply neuromastery, and I think this is just one of the questions that has forced you to open another way you're doing. But I still want to stay on the process we're in, which is how do you get yourself to a state where you have put out the fire and you're making decisions from the right mind frame? How do you get to a place where you're not committing suicide? How do you get to a place where you're not throwing your child over the roof? Where do you
Yeah.
get to a point where you're not driving your wife out of the house because you can't control your own nerves? So I think I still want to go in here and say, so how do you create new data points? Because you say I'm okay, you recognize I'm upset, I'm scared, I'm angry, whatever. And then you activate it, which is think about it and say, I'm upset, I am not upset. I'm upset, I'm not upset. Which is more like you're activating it, but at the same time you're interrupting that person. And then I am wondering, like, how do you create new points? Is it the acupuncture or whatever? Like, how do you create new data points for that?
Okay. How do you change your baseline? How you how you um how you relate to somebody or how you relate to your life? Is that what you're asking? How do you
No,
really change?
I'm just asking for point number 4. After you've interrupted the thought, I have written something like new points or the acupuncture or I don't know, calming the modular. Is it the physical placing of the
Yeah,
finger?
the physical the physical the physical action of doing that actually calms your brain, calms your nervous system. And
Mm,
and from there you can react differently. You can become untriggered so
mm,
that people can say and do the same things that got you upset or angry before, and it doesn't have that effect anymore. It's like you don't even notice it. I
mm,
did a workshop once. It was a 4-week workshop, and it was how to have an ongoing relationship, how to keep your relationship going, forever. And it was all women who came,
mm,
and so I had them list everything that their partner, their husband, did that they didn't like or did or didn't do that bothered them,
mm.
and we just neutralized every one of them. We just went through the list and neutralized them one after another. And in the 3rd week, they came back and said, "He's so different."
Mm.
And I had to laugh because he wasn't different at all. He didn't do anything. It was them that was different. Um, so that's where I got the idea that people develop scripts. That have you ever had the same argument over and over again?
Mm.
And you know exactly how it's going to unfold and where it's going, and you don't want to do it, but you still do it. You can't stop, right?
But you just like, geez, I don't want to have this argument again. It's the same thing
But
over and over and over.
but here we are. We're doing it. I know how it's going to end already, but you
Mm,
go ahead and do it anyway. So that's a script, right?
mm,
So just like a script, you're providing the other person with cues, and they're reacting, and then they provide you with your cues, and you react, and so it's all automatic.
mm,
So what was happening with these women is that they were no longer responding to their partner's cues, and they weren't giving him the cues, and so they were off script. They were in
mm.
improv, like real life. They were connecting
That's
in a different way.
interesting. How
Yeah,
can we demonstrate that practically? Because that's interesting to me. I would love to be in a place where no matter what my spouse does, he does not get the fuel he needs to go down that spiral. I'd like
yeah,
to put something in him that says, no, she's not going to argue with you. So you're going to have to deal with your own argument. Because I feel
yeah,
like I have a contribution to the argument. If I
sure.
subtracted myself, how then would this turn out? Because I know the result. The result is we want the same thing. We're going in the same direction. We love each other. No one wants to hurt the other person. No one wants to leave the other person. Why does this have to always go through a heated furnace to then get to the conclusion that we're saying the same thing in different ways? Like, I would
Yeah,
rather empower myself to not contribute to that discussion and have
right,
him
right.
know, geez, she's not responding anymore. Like, what do I do with all these anticipation I have for the fight? Like, I would love to do that because I think that would be the most beautiful thing that I can ever do for myself and
Yeah,
my relationship. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's a very big thing to do. So one thing you can do is go through the argument in your mind
Mm-hmm.
and just do these points as you're doing it.
Mm.
So he says this, and then I say this, and yada yada, and
Mm.
let yourself feel as upset as you would,
Mm.
but keep doing the points because
Mm.
that takes the charge down. If you don't do the points, then you're building it up, right?
Oh, so you have to do the points of, as
You
in,
have to,
I don't feel like that, or you just have to.
yeah, but you don't have to do anything else. Just go through, just do the points and go through the argument. Just rehearse it.
How it happens. I think it helps
And
if it's like just happened and you're like, okay, I'm going to replay this thing right now in my mind.
yeah, yeah. Or you can do it anytime. Like you can remember
Mm.
it and tune into how it feels. Or you
Mm.
can even do it right during the argument. You know, just while you're arguing, just start doing the meridian points, and you won't get as ramped up as you would have. Um,
So I think the practical thing is to, okay, this argument is coming, and then you do it. And then I think
yeah,
with time, you will realize that, oh, you're not really getting any far with the argument.
right, right. Yeah, I'm no longer getting hooked. I no longer have to say that thing that I normally would say. It's like
Mm.
I see where they're coming from. They're upset and they're saying the usual thing and they're expecting me to react this way, but I don't feel like reacting that way.
It's just like this urge to say something to them to clarify your position, but your position doesn't matter if they're in flight or freeze. Like it doesn't matter. Just keep it to yourself, and when they've come down, maybe you can talk about it. But I find that I have the most urge to give my position and my point in the worst time ever, when somebody is in like a spike and crash mode. That is when I feel the desire to express myself and my feelings, which is like the wrong time.
Yeah,
Yes, and this information can be more helpful to them if I present it when they are calmer and more in the normal state. So yes, I am getting on this challenge for myself.
yeah. So taking down your reactivity helps them be calm. Okay, because you're no longer throwing out the usual fire bombs, that set them off.
Mm. So then how do you save and close file?
Say that again.
How do you save and close file?
Oh, save and close files. Yeah, the
Mm.
reconsolidation. Yeah. Um, well, it's not hard. You just go back to how you were feeling and pay attention to how you are feeling now. So you go back and forth. I noticed that I was really upset, and you don't have to do this all the time. I do this in some of sort of my more formal processes. But if you're just doing, I'm upset, I'm upset, I'm not upset, you just notice, oh, I'm not upset. I was upset and now I'm not.
Mm.
So that's really all it takes there. Um, but if we're doing something more deliberate, some of my more elaborate processes, I'll have people pay attention to their felt sense, get an intensity rating, usually go from -10 to +10, how intense is it?
Mm.
And take a snapshot of that, or even write something down. And then at the end, we come back and say, well, how do you feel now? How does your body feel? How are you thinking about it? How intense is it? And so on. And so you just go back and forth a few times, and that sort of locks down your neural network back into the automatic mode. So it's just noticing. It's really just noticing and paying attention to the change.
So does it ever occur that you're not having charge on the neuroprogramming, or is it that you still charge but you know how to disarm?
No, I'm really talking about taking the charge down.
Mm. So
Yeah,
like as
and
you do this work and do this work and get the master levels, I'm just wondering what happens for you now. Is it that your neural system no longer charges much, or is it that when it charges, you just know how to disarm it or take the charge down?
well, both of those.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course, both. Yeah, so if you do this work for in an ongoing kind of way, your basic level of reactivity goes down.
Mm.
So think of it as 0 to 10. So 0 is like completely calm, Zen master, right?
Mm.
Um, But most people go around at some higher level of, if you go around at a 2 or a 3, it's hard to get you up to being really reactive or upset or angry. Okay.
It's
So you
very
have to do
hard. Until I got married, I was never upset. Never. Nobody
it.
could trigger me. Until I got married, then there's a little bit of trigger. But I
Yeah.
know that I can take it down. Because no one on this planet has the ability to trigger me. Like nothing. Nobody. In my family, they used to say, but how is it that you never get angry? And I was like, I don't know what you're benefiting from getting angry. But when I got married, I realized that I lost some of that power in my own relationship. I couldn't not get triggered. But
Yeah.
otherwise, out in the world, I am not easily triggered. So I think I can really bring it down. I know I can because I do it all of the time, but
Yeah.
not in my own relationship, my romantic
Yeah.
relationship. I think I need to learn how to do that in my own,
Yeah.
because this is the only place which shows me that, oh no, there is some work to be done here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
That's the most challenging. Yeah. Or family for many people. Um,
Family, yeah.
but if someone is going around at a higher level, like 6, 7, 8, then anything that happens can flip them over, right, into being upset or dysregulated, right?
Mm.
And so if you do this work, you come down from, 9, 8, 7 down to 4, 5, down to 2, 3. So it's a lot harder to get you tripped out. It's a lot harder to become dysregulated. You sort of cruise through life like that instead of going
You
bam,
can
bam,
go
bam.
through life and get punched and still keep moving. I see what you mean. Like there's people who are so dysregulated that they have difficulty going through life. Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so what you're saying is once you bring that down, that reaction level down, you can go through hard life and still not tear down, not still die. Like you can go through the punches of life. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can
Mm.
handle it. You have the capacity, you're resilient,
You have the
You-
capacity to go through problems.
so things can happen and you don't lose it. You say, oh, wow, okay, I'm still here. What can
Yeah,
I do?
that's really bad, but yeah, what to do? My landlord just kicked me out, so I guess I'm gonna have to come up with a plan. My spouse just left me, so I guess I gotta start over. I just lost my job. I guess it's time to hit the job market.
Right.
That's a different. What I think my state is more like no matter what happens, there's a knowing that it'll be okay.
Yes. Knowing that you still have your center, rather
It'll be
than,
okay. It may not be easy, but in the end, it'll be fine.
yeah. And partly that happens because when you're not reactive like that, you have more access to your creativity. You have more access to
Mm,
your deeper self, to your authenticity. Say, okay, this happened. It doesn't destroy me. That thing didn't define me. That's not, I am not destroyed. I'm still here.
mm,
What can I do? You know, how do I choose to react to this? So you
mm,
have choices. That's another way to
mm,
say it. You have choices rather than being taken over by your reactivity.
mm. What is it about neuromastery that we need to touch, or that would be very helpful for this conversation that I haven't yet asked about, but you would
Oh.
love to add it?
Hmm. Um, well, we mentioned it, but
Mm,
the idea that it's all neural networks is very,
mm,
very helpful, that it's not me,
mm,
right? So when you have a feeling, people will say, I'm upset, I'm angry. I have people say, this feeling of being upset, this feeling of being angry.
mm,
So that separates you a little bit, right? So
mm,
there's me, and then there's a feeling. And so what that does is, and then if you know neuromastery, you can say, that's a neural network, and I know how to change neural networks. And
mm,
so that shifts you from being in the control of I'm angry, the anger is controlling me. I'm out of control. I'm just going to rant and rave and break things and whatever you do, or withdraw. Um, so that's the anger being in control. But if you say, okay, that's a neural network, then already you're back in control because you're naming it. That's a neural network. Okay.
Naming,
And
putting a name to the enemy and going, yeah, fear, I see you. Anger, I see you, but hold on, you know?
yeah, I see you. Hold on.
Identifying the enemy and giving it a name.
Well, it's not, I don't think of it as an enemy at all. Not, it's not an
I
enemy.
look at it
It,
as the enemy.
it has a purpose. It has a purpose. It's energy to deal with something. Anger comes up. Specifically, anger is related to injustice or unfairness. So I studied with Marshall Rosenberg, nonviolent communication, and he said that anger is actually a signpost to unmet needs.
Unmet needs.
Yeah, like say you need respect or you need safety, and somebody's violating that, you get angry.
I used to think of anger as you're stepping on my values right now, or my value right now, and I need you to stop.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very similar. Yeah. So nothing is an enemy. It's all information, or it's training, or it's a neural network that's there. So regarding yourself as an enemy, regarding some part of yourself as an enemy is not that useful.
Information.
It's more like integration. So this is something I decided when I was a teenager. I realized that my energy was so dispersed, so divided up, that I needed to focus on integration. And here I am decades later, I'm still doing that, because bringing all those separated parts, you can think of it that way too, or all those reactions, all those reaction patterns back into yourself is really the path that I'm on and that I teach people. So how to reintegrate and become whole, how to become whole. And so basic wholeness is a concept. You asked for a concept that people could have. Basic wholeness is one, that we are all fundamentally whole. We are unbroken, unstained, unharmed, and never can be. Underneath all the other stuff, the rubble of civilization that has piled on us, all the traumas we've gone through, all the dysfunctional training and modeling that we've been subjected to. Underneath all that, none of that is who we are. That's all learned stuff. And underneath all that, we are fundamentally whole.
I like how you look at that. We're fundamentally whole, and all of these feelings is information to say that our wholeness is it more like our wholeness is being tampered with? So
is being what?
The way I'm getting it is more like we're basically whole fundamentally. And so if we get anxiety, it means something is saying, no, stop living in the future. You're feeling like this because you're living in the future. If we get depressed, it's our wholeness telling us, why are you living in the past? I need you to stop living in the past. If we get anger, it's more like, I need you to identify your values right now because you're angry because somebody is not giving you what you need. They're stepping on your values. Have you communicated those values to them? And I don't know, I think we could get every feeling and attach it to what our whole self is saying. Like, what is my whole self telling me that is making me feel like that? I don't know. How inaccurate is that? I am very good at putting things out of context and saying the wrong things. But that's what I'm getting.
No, that's very good. That's your own creation. I haven't been thinking that way, but that's a really good way to look at this. What is my whole self saying?
Yeah. What does it say? What is it protecting me from? Because if it never reacted, then we'll just go on not knowing our values, not standing up for ourselves, no. But when your wholeness is saying, no, I'm going to make you angry because I need you to know that your values are important. And so if somebody makes you angry a lot, maybe you have to leave them or you have to communicate with them like, why are they making you angry? And I'm going to make it so undesirable that you refuse to stay there. And so I think anger is telling us that, like for me now, when I'm angry at my spouse, what I'm reading is, you have a value, he's breaking it, and he doesn't know it. So have you spelled out, told him what your values are? Does he know why you're angry? So that's what I'm getting. If you find yourself depressed, it's like information you're living in the past. Why? Your whole self does not live in the past. What do you need to do to stop living in the past? If you're anxious and all of those things, you're living in the future. So your whole self wants to live in the now. So it's giving you information like, why are you living in the future? Maybe find help to stop having that. And that's how I'm really receiving it. Fear is maybe, I don't know, assumptions or I don't know. But this feeling, this information is letting us know that I'm whole, I'm here in the present, and that is whatever is happening is out of sync with what I know to be true. Because I'm here, I'm whole, I'm expansive, I live in the moment. The moment you alter that, I am going to show you in some form of shape by contracting you so that you can leave that state and desire to be whole again. That's what I'm receiving.
Yeah, well, that's a great way to relate to your life. Yeah, but that's your own creation. You just did that.
I need to own this framework today. Today. See,
Yeah,
whenever I see you, I create, learn, grow. And this is why I love doing something with you because you always help me see things in a different way. Is there anything that you feel you would love to add to this conversation before we drift into the experience that you have? I know you have a free powerful experience, the way you work with people, how people should get involved. Is there anything else that you want to give them before that?
no, the only thing is I would add, oh, I'll say yes. The only thing is that just going off what you were saying, that my whole self wants me to do this or wants me to know this and so on. I would add in finger points to take down the reactivity, just to take
Mm,
down the fight, flight, freeze reactivity, which is a physical thing that's going on, right?
mm,
And it confuses, it makes it hard to think. You get tunnel vision, right? You can't see alternatives. And
mm,
so the way you're talking to yourself is a good way to bring yourself back together, back toward wholeness. Yes.
mm,
And at the same time, I would add in the meridian points just to calm your reactive state back to something that's more functional. So that would just
mm.
do the two things
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're putting
So
out the fire, but you're also grounding yourself to go,
right.
okay, so if this is the information, how do I get myself back to my wholeness? What do I need? What service do I, what expert do I need? You know? Like even just understanding what is happening so you can go look for the right experts to help you maybe come back if you don't have the tools within you to do it yourself. I think
Right.
can be the difference between I'm going to commit suicide now to, well, this just says I live in the past. Okay, we need some of that reconfigured, dispowered. We need a new anchor for whatever the depression is. And
Right.
then you can go look for the expert who can help you with that anchor. But really, like self education to know that I'm whole and complete. And everything outside of that is going to be a feeling of contraction that I don't desire.
Right. And so it's always a movement back toward wholeness, always a movement out of
Mm,
reactivity back toward wholeness,
mm,
or from contraction to expansion. And wholeness is expansion. So
mm,
just always noticing, am I in a contracted state? Am I in a reactive state? And how can I neutralize that and come back toward wholeness and being in the now? So
mm.
that's the overall thing.
I love looking at that as well, as opposed to looking at it as I'm broken, I need to be fixed, because that's not really
Mhm.
empowering. I am whole
No,
and complete, and these things over here are telling me that that is being interfered with, and I need to go back that state by
right.
dealing with this. As opposed to I am so broken, I am not whole and complete, and I need to fix myself.
No, I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell me about the experience, or tell me, first of all, tell me how you work with people. What are the containers and levels through which you support people behind
Yeah.
the scenes to do this work?
Yeah. Well, I do one-on-one work, and usually it's we do a package, a certain number of sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and people get a lot of results from those packages. Um, and then I have a program I call Clarity Now, which you can find out about on the website where that free experience is.
Mm.
And I have a workshop. I do workshops. One of them is called Quiet Mind, Silence the Critical Voice Within.
Mm.
And a lot of people have a critical voice, a negative voice inside their head that drives them on or criticizes them and says, you're never good enough, do more, And that is a neural network. Remember I said it's all neural networks.
Mm.
That's a neural network, and it can be neutralized in less than a day. And so that's a workshop that I offer. And I'm going to be starting a class in what I call radical meditation, and that'll be both online and in person here in Austin, where I am. And yeah, there'll be information about that on my website, which again will be linked down below.
Tell me more about the time, because your methodologies have like instant, if not 30 minutes, or you can see a change in the shortest time. I would love for you to talk to that, because every time I think about you, I think about speed. So talk about that. I know you do even have a free experience where someone can go through that for 30 minutes and they can see like a result. Tell me about speed and kind of what I can expect when I go through any of the experiences. Yes.
Okay, well, so that free experience you can have, it takes an hour because I have to teach you some things. But once you know those things, it takes half an hour or so to do it. So just to be clear, the radical meditation, people get results in 6 minutes. It's you do it for 6 or 7 or 8 minutes. 10 minutes is a long time. And then we check in and you've tuned into a certain thing and then your feeling about it changes. And then we recalibrate, do we need to refocus and so on. And so it keeps changing. In terms of speed, okay, here's a cool story. The manager of a sanctuary farm, they take in, rescue animals, was referred to me by one of my clients. Okay, so I need to start back. The client that referred them is an equine vet, horse veterinarian. Okay, and one of his clients is this farm, so he goes and takes care of the horses there when they need it. And so he sent the manager of the farm came to me and she said, I have anxiety attacks, 10 or 12 times a day that, I'm able to manage it, so people don't really know. So we took down her anxiety. I saw her 3 times and then she went away on a trip. She lives in the Midwest, and then she went on a trip to Pakistan with her husband, who's Pakistani, to meet his family. And she said, I didn't have the anxiety. When I talked to her later, she said, I didn't have the anxiety. I only had a little bit of anxiety twice. Once when she was alone in the airport in Istanbul, which, could be a little anxiety provoking for anyone. And another time when she was out walking at night, in the city where she was there. So, but she didn't have the daily things. But then so that was big. But then the most dramatic thing is that when she got back, one of the horses stopped breathing. It was like down on its side. And she called the vet, my other client, and he taught her how to do a tracheotomy on the horse over FaceTime. And she had no idea, like she didn't know where a trachea was. She was like 2 feet away from where it actually was. And he was saying, no, it's here. And then she had a knife and she said, well, no, cut the other way. Like she had no idea. She'd never done anything like that. And he walked her through the whole thing on FaceTime, and the horse survived. It got up, it was breathing, and she was covered in blood. And she turned around and all of her staff was there, like 8 people watching her doing this. And they said, that was crazy. And the vet said, that was crazy. And she thought she just did it, right? Because her anxiety had come down to the point that she was just saying, okay, he's so calm. I'm just follow the directions. This is normal. No, it's not normal. And so that's how far she came. And that was after 3 sessions.
Wow. No, that's
So,
fun.
results may not be typical. She's a very good client.
Yeah, results are never typical. It depends on like, I don't know, I think some of this is even like all about surrender your beliefs and how surrendered are you to the process? How much
Yeah,
do you believe that these things are possible? All of those are factors to the results you get. How
yeah.
intentional do you get, you know? Um, so yeah, results are not typical for sure. But we will
So,
have links. Yeah.
so speed is one thing, but depth is another.
Mm,
So I've had people come to me who have tried everything for 30 or 35 years. They've done, they've been to any
mm,
number of therapists. They've been given, drugs. They've taken, illegal drugs, all trying to feel better. And
mm,
they say this is the first thing that actually works for them
mm,
because we're not dealing with symptoms. We're going to causes.
mm. If you've tried different things and you haven't seen progress, this is the place where you come to uproot the roots. You've been dealing with the
Right.
branches and the leaves and everything and the stem, but this is the place where you come to uproot the roots. I really think I understand the work, which is like this is neural patterns. This is the roots of you and whatever you believe in and whatever stories you carry. And so if we can work directly with the roots, everything will shift. Hmm.
Exactly.
I love this. We will have links to Daimon's offers. I'm interested in the free offer. He does have a free experience. That would be the place that I would love for you to see it and kind of go through the experience and see how it helps you out. But of course, if you know, because you know that, okay, for me, I just need to go straight to maybe the coaching or the workshops or whatever the experience is, you're also welcome to just book a call because on the same link where there is experience, there will be a link. But Damon's process is so that you go through the experience so you see what can happen.
Yeah, I just
Mm,
have to get this line in here. Talking about it is one thing, but it's like
mm,
talking about chocolate. You can
mm,
talk all you want about chocolate, but then when you taste it, that's completely different.
mm,
So I hope people have gotten an impression of what's possible, but actually experiencing it is a whole different experience. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to do that
mm.
and experience the clarity process, and that will give you a whole new idea of what's possible for you.
Experience the free clarity process. And if you go out of it going, wow, this has been helpful, I want more, that is the point at which you can book a call with Daimon and have a chat with him.
Yeah.
He really doesn't like it if you don't go through the experience because he doesn't want to tell you more of what he can do. He wants you to experience it. And I think I'm with him here. Like, we can tell you all we want, but until you experience it, we don't know if he can help you or he can't help you. So go through that experience, see what it looks like, what it feels like for you, what it gives you, and then make a decision if you would love to kind of see how he can take you further. I think that's fair enough. It's free, it'll be in the show notes and in the pinned comment. Go for it, see what you go through with that. I really hope you find some answers in that. But as you know how we roll, Damon's message really exists because there's a lot of sadness in the world. And there's a lot of individuals that have tried everything and nothing has happened for them. Or they've relapsed, or they have seen like small changes. And so his message exists because there is people out there for who this is the only answer that can help them. And what you can do as a listener is really you're the vessel to transport this message. My work is to translate the message so that the practical world understands what it is. Damon's work is to hold his gift tight and support people and help people behind the scenes. Your work as a listener is to take this message and go, who do I want to bless with the gift of this knowing, this experience, this work? In whose world would Daimon be a gift that alters their life? I want you to ask that question, and I want you to please share and drop this in their private space where you would normally speak to them. Daimon, if they are not clear who to share this with, could you give me a description of the person that would most benefit from the experience?
I'd say someone who feels stuck, someone who wants to grow past a certain reaction or pattern or feeling, and they've tried a lot of things, and maybe they've meditated, maybe they've gone to therapy, maybe they've done yoga and so on, and none of that has worked for them, and they know they need something that goes deeper.
You remind me of the gentleman called, I think it's called Michael, that I was having a chat with. And he was walking through an experience a client of his does, and he also does some NLP type of work. And he said this gentleman was in an accident. It's been 8 years, and he lost most of himself, memories and stuff. And so he's been on the couch for 8 years. He'd been going to therapy for 8 years, and he had a daughter who survived the accident. And the daughter has turned out great, and she wasn't affected. But the man was affected. He would only sleep for 1 hour. And he's gone through 8 years sleeping for 1 hour. But he's on the couch. He can't do nothing. All he does is therapy. And so he said, I sat with him, and I had to disable, like every night he would go to bed, he would replay the accident. And he wouldn't sleep. And he would just do that. And no matter how he went to therapy and what, that he would just keep replaying the accident. And that is why he never slept. And so when he sat with this gentleman, they did the neuro thing, your thing. And somehow they removed that and put the daughter, like the place where he got out of the accident full of blood, and he saw the daughter, and the daughter was like, so they replayed that, the love and hope and joy that the baby got when she realized that the dad wasn't dead. And so that is the memory they configured in his head. And he was able to sleep for 6 hours since then.
Right.
And so this is the power of dealing with neural networks. And when you want to do work with the neural networks, you want somebody who's been there. You want mileage, you want scars, you want school of hard knocks, you want someone who's done it for 30 years plus. And so I wanted to share that because that's the power of this neural, I don't know, I want to call it manipulation kind of thing. How can you replace the moments that are torturing people with maybe moments that give them joy and pleasure? And so if you know someone even who is, I don't know, going to therapy for 10 years because of a memory like that, that is the power of the neural networks. That can be replaced with a memory that gives them life and wholeness and, and all of these things. And that's what's possible when you get the people who do neural mastery. That's what they can do for you. And please, if there is someone that can use this to alter their life, I would urge you to be the gift. And if you're here because someone shared the episode, then you know the drill. You don't want to be the person breaking the chain. Move on this to someone whose life depends on it. That's the premise of the podcast. That's the premise of my work. That is what I promise experts when they come on the show, that they will be someone that carries the message. The messenger is there when the teacher is ready. So thank you today for being our messenger on the recipient side. Daimon, we're closing out. I wonder what would be your parting words to the listener, to myself, or whoever.
Parting words are, you don't have to be stuck. If you feel stuck, there are new ways that can move you through that so that you can move into more integration, more wholeness, access to fundamental wholeness, your basic wholeness. And anything you're stuck on is learned and can be unlearned.
I love that. I think my last words would be, fundamentally, we're really whole and complete. And you don't have to be stuck in feelings of contraction for good, because there are answers, there are solutions for this problem. And even if you were just worried about how long it takes, there is faster and deeper methods to do this. There's seniors at this. There's people who have done this for centuries and, decades and decades. And so there is answers. You just have to be open enough. You just have to surrender enough to trust that there is a way to move from a world of constant contraction to a world of expansion. Because your body, your soul demands of wholeness from you. And anything you're feeling on the contraction side is because the wholeness is being threatened, and your soul is saying, no, I live in the moment, I live in the now, and I believe in the possibilities. And so Daimon exists, his message exists because everyone, it's your birthright to live in a place of possibilities. And so there's no point why you should keep yourself stuck in feelings of contraction, because the possibilities belong to you as well, and it's your birthright. I hope you found value in this episode. I hope you will use the app, do all of the things that the platforms allow you to do. Is it share? Is it follow? Is it subscribe? Is it comment? Is it review? I am not the guru with the podcast platforms. However, I know that if you do what the platforms want, this message will attract people like you. And so this community will have people on the same frequency, on the same vibration. And together, if we can eliminate or at least know how to deal with the feelings of contraction, we will be a light to the people who don't. And I don't know that there is feelings that can be, I don't know. Like if I knew how to not be angry, my marriage wouldn't have arguments or heated arguments. So I have a lot to contribute to my own results. So if each of us knew how to discharge, which I like calling disarming, if we all knew how to disarm these feelings of contraction, my bet is that the world would be a better place, because we would disarm the other people that don't know. And so if you made yourself the most valuable person you can ever be, who is conscious enough to disarm everything as it comes, or discharge and stay grounded and stay regulated, it's my belief that the world will be a better place. So I hope that you join me on this journey with Daimon and myself, and you and whoever is being given this message, that when you can discharge, arm yourself, you make the world a better place. And so I hope you join us in this world, or on this mission of reducing suffering and making the world a better place. I appreciate you. Thank you for being on the show. I will talk to you very soon. And I really hope that this was helpful to you. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining this conversation on the World's Best Kept Secret podcast today. If you feel ready to stop keeping your work a secret, head over to primajope.com and request a free conversation. Until next time, please remember that there's no prize in keeping your work a secret.